give it a few more minutes before we all get started.
Welcome, everybody. We will begin very shortly. Thank you for joining us here today at Penn West Black History Month virtual session. I believe that bass riff is telling us it's time to start. So welcome everybody to our live stream today. My name is Chris DeVere. I'm with Penn West Communications Department. We are excited to invite everybody to Can You See Me? Voices and Experience of Penn West African American Students. Without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Savannah Dorsey, a California alum and current student. She's going to lead us through this. If there are any questions on the YouTube viewing, you can submit those in the comments. For those of you that are on the Zoom chat, you can submit them in the chat as well. So without further ado, take it away, Savannah.
Hi, everyone. My name is Savannah Dorsey. I am a current student here at Penn West as a graduate student in the Applied Behavioral Analysis program. I would first like to thank Penn West for giving us this opportunity to showcase these wonderful individuals and on their entrepreneurship. So today we are going to talk about the Black excellence, remembering Black Wall Street through the lens of African-American entrepreneurs. So this will be a panel of Penn West faculty, alumni, current students, and community members that we will be discussing the history of America's Black Wall Street and the influence of Black entrepreneurs. Dr. Dixon, would you like to introduce alumni panelists?
Thank you. Along with our panelists, we are also excited to have Dr. Rhonda Matthews with us. Dr. Matthews is a faculty member at Penn West, and she will be providing us with an overview of Black Wall Street. So we're excited to have her with us today. Also with us and on our panel of alumni and community representatives is Ms. Marva Morris, who is the owner of Zendej. I hope I pronounced that right, Zendej Energy Drink. And it's the brand of functional beverages that are low in caffeine. Ms. Marva owned and successfully operated a plastic blow molding company in Detroit, which made plastic packaging. This gave her the opportunity to acquire a beverage company. And then in 2009, she purchased Zendej. She was able to personally take the company to its first major retail and online accounts, including Country Fair, ShopRite, and Walmart, as well as Amazon. Additionally, joining us is Angelica Spraggins, who is an alum. She is a previous graduate of the counseling program, and she is also the co-owner to Journey to a Trauma-Informed Life and co-founder of Erie's Black Wall Street. We're excited to hear about her journey and contributions. And lastly, in terms of, and also in our alumni panel, is Tiffany Levette. Tiffany is an EU grad of the social work program. She's currently owns several business ventures that include the ownership of the ABC daycare, transportation services, as well as a food truck. Ms. Levette also provides services and mentoring and life coach services. So we're excited about her as well. And then we also have Tamara Elizabeth, who will be with us, and she also has hair products and fashion design. Tamara is the CEO of Kojak Secrets. It's an all-natural beauty care company that is made from 100% and natural organic ingredients. And her own hair was damaged in 2015, which led her on her journey to discover her product. I believe that is our alumni who are going to be joining us. Am I missing anyone?
Damir Reed, I believe as
Thank you,
well.
Jameer Reed. Thank you. I'm so sorry.
No.
And Jameer is a photographer and graphic artist and a fashion stylist in the Philadelphia area, where they're known for their photography and art scene. They mostly shoot photography, fashion photography combined with graphic design abilities. Philadelphia is filled with fashion models, enthusiasts, and influencers, so it's not difficult to find people to work with. Thank you all to the alumni and local business, Black business owners for joining us today. Savannah's also going to introduce some of our student panelists who will be participating as well.
Okay, so going into our current student entrepreneurs, most of these are from, well, actually all of them are from the Cal U campus. First, going into Bria Allen, she has a photography business. She is the creator of BA Photography. She's had experience as a photographer for many years now, and she continues to grow every day. She would describe her work as simple, natural, and timeless. And as a photographer, her goal is to create images that show the beauty, strength, and enthusiasm of her clients that will cherish forever for many years to come. She's done work in many categories, including fashion, sports, nature, and lifestyle. And I have everyone link their Instagram and their personal pages at the end. And we also have Rafiq Hillard. He is clothing and apparel. Too Durfy is a clothing brand that unites people with differences through creative and comfy clothing pieces. Durfy means not the same as others, the highest standard of different. We want you to understand it's okay to be different and embrace your differences as you walk in any world wearing Durfy and feel normal. We also have Thiago Alvarez, and his is also clothing and apparel. He has the clothing brand Grande, and the meaning of Grande is in reference to someone who is large or big in size, but also has the meaning of powerful. Their mission is to provide stylish and luxury streetwear clothing for the big and tall community while providing a sense of self-confidence and positive self-image through their clothing. With each of our pieces, we hope to inspire and relive any insecurities, and their goal as a brand is to empower individuals, especially those who are perceived to be larger, while providing stylish and wearable clothing for all individuals. Through targeting the big and tall community, it is not limited to them. Their brand was founded by Mr. Grande, and Mr. Grande always struggled to find clothes that fit him, and if they did, they weren't stylish enough. Thus came Grande Apparel, a brand that came to be because other brands didn't care enough about them or about the large and big community. We currently offer our first ever collection, their Universal Love collection, which includes the Grande logo tee with DTG printing on the front and back of each tee. And this is their most anticipated drop of the new year with their high quality French terry hoodies and sweats. And they'll begin to take pre-orders. And that's it for our current student panelists. Dr. Matthews, would you like to give a little bit insight on the Black Wall Street?
Wait, there we go. Is this the beginning of my 15 minutes?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, then I'm going to put my timer on to make sure I don't go over. Okay, so let me share screens here. I want to share screen one. I got sound. Okay, and okay, can you all see my screen?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, wait a minute. Everything's doing weird stuff now. Hang on. Come on. Okay, so what? Okay, that's not what I wanted it to do. Hang on, y'all. We're having some technical difficulties. What I wanted to talk about today was, hang on, y'all, because this is not gonna, my computer is doing something weird. Okay, are we back to the first screen? Okay, you know what? I'm gonna stop because my computer is not. Okay. All right. So did it stop sharing? What happened? Did it go away?
It went away. You're good.
Did it kick me out?
No,
It
you're
kicked
here.
me out.
Dr. Ross.
I still see you, Dr. Matthews. You can't hear us?
I cannot see y'all. Something's going on with my computer. I can't. Okay, wait a minute. Now it's frozen. Can you hear me now? Can you see me?
We can hear
Okay.
and see you.
Now I can't hear you, Dr. Dixon. Okay, I'm just gonna talk. All right. So I can't show you the PowerPoint, but one of the things that I think is important about the ways in which we talk about Black communities is how it is that Black communities are often framed in the imaginations of other people, especially those people who create policies and process, et cetera. That's really important because the ways in which Black folks have constructed their communities have largely depended upon the parameters that have been set for them outside of our communities. So the idea that Black people have certain qualities, certain characteristics, et cetera, those ideas have often been formed outside of our communities. But when we have created communities, by and large, what we have done is we have created spaces that when they have been good spaces, they have been those that allow for comfort and freedom. They offer all of the social characteristics that are necessary for positive development of the people in the community. So we had one of those such communities in what is known as the Greenwood section of Tulsa, Oklahoma. By all accounts, the construction of this community was positive. The people who were a part of this community were well-to-do is not a good word. What a better way to describe it is that they were financially stable, not just individuals, but the entire community and the people within it were financially stable. One of the ways in which our system determines whether or not a community is financially healthy is by the amount of time that money spends circulating in that community. And so, hang on, let me get my statistics so I will not give you guys the wrong information. So when we think about the ways in which money circulates or how money circulates in a community as an indicator of its health, is we think about how much time it's spent in the community. So let's think about, for instance, how much time $1 spends circulating in Asian communities. And this is modern day. So in modern day, on average, $1 circulates within an Asian community for about a month. So, 30, 31 days, which then provides a larger frame of financial health to all of the businesses, organizations, people, families that live within that community. In the modern era, in Jewish communities, the average circulation of $1 is 20 days, right? So almost a month, not quite a month. In white communities, the average is 17 days. In modern Black communities, the average amount of time that $1 spends within that community is 6 hours. I didn't make a mistake, not days, it is 6 hours. This is an indication about the relative financial health of many Black communities. This is not all, this is just a generalized statistical fact, but it is fact nonetheless. In Greenwood, in Tulsa, Oklahoma, in the early 1900s, the dollar was was found to have circulated 36 to 100 times within the community. So in Greenwood, a single dollar in that neighborhood circulated for just about a year, right? So that should give you an idea about the health of the neighborhood kind of writ large. Okay, so the other things that happen with healthy communities is that you have all these social factors that determine how well people who live in the community live, what their outcomes are. So factors such as health, your ability to access health and health care, your relative physical safety, the level of education and the type of education, again, the amount of wealth, the dollar circulating in the community, and also this, access to other social resources, food, shelter, transportation, family, community writ large. Greenwood had all of those things. Now, there's another cultural issue that is really important about this, and that is that we live in a nation that is founded upon racist acts. We're not just talking about racist ideology, although you need that in order to perform a racist act. But those two things hand in hand make for a structure, an institution, laws, policies, processes, et cetera, that are created and designed to keep people out of certain areas of social life, to keep their access to those things low. Well, so the idea of, for instance, when you hear people say things like, go back to, insert place here, right? Or why don't you go and create your own communities? Part of the problem with that ideology and that idea in our society is that people do wind up doing that. People who are in marginalized communities often do wind up creating their own communities. But here's the problem. Tulsa is but one example of this. When people who are marginalized and oppressed actually do create those communities and they're healthy and happy and safe, they get torn down. Right. And in what happened with Tulsa on June 1st, 1921, is that people were murdered. They were their land was stolen from them through them being destroyed. And people were run out of town. Right. And part of that kind of behavior was a way to build wealth in white communities, because people did go in and commit mass murder, and they did it for the sake of, racism, but also so that they could enrich themselves. Because one of the things that happened is that when people left the communities, their land was, and their whatever property they owned was considered to have been deserted, and so then it was taken and sold to white people, therefore enriching their communities as well. So there's a double-edged sword, right? That is inherent in doing that, in creating positive communities for people who've been oppressed and marginalized. So that's the history, right? And Greenwood is only one example of that. There are literally hundreds of examples like this. So what do we do? What do, right? Well, we do what we've always done. We create communities. And so one of the ways in which we've decided to address some of those issues in Erie, and Angelica will talk about this a little bit more too, was the creation of a local nonprofit organization called Erie's Black Wall Street. And the primary objective of Erie's Black Wall Street is to help to rebuild and to build the decimated Black community of Erie, Pennsylvania. Because through institutional neglect and or institutional structures, one of the things that has happened to the Black community in Erie is that laws, policies, processes have been put in place, which have excluded many of the people in the Black communities from access to a lot of the factors that are necessary to create positive community, such as home ownership. Right. So a lot of people think of home ownership as this kind of personal thing, like that's an individual thing, but actually it's not, because it's part and parcel of larger institutional structures. So when you think about, for instance, having good credit, well, having good credit sounds like it's just kind of a numbers game, except there are policies and practice in place that are specifically designed to keep Black people from accessing, good credit. That's a system. That's not just an individual issue. There are barriers to mortgage lending, right? We have a history of barriers there too. So part of what, and the list goes on and on. So part of what Erie's Black Wall Street is doing is addressing some of those disparities that we understand exist from a social, historical, and cultural standpoint, but we're doing it right here locally. It was started by Angelica and her spouse, Devonna, and Kyra Taylor, right? It was started off as discussions about what is it that we can do? We have to live here. What is it that we can do to help make this place better? And that has folded its way into a nonprofit, which is making real inroads in terms of all of those types of changes in the community. So there's a whole lot more, and I can answer questions later, but the last thing I want to do is say this. So we're talking about entrepreneurship, and we are talking about basically profit, right? Creating and building organizations and institutions and businesses and forms of entrepreneurship that are deeply rooted in capitalist structures. But one of the things I would like for us to always remember is that while it seems like capitalism is all by itself is a way for marginalized folks to kind of get access to social capital, power, prestige, money, etc. The one thing we have to remember is that our capitalist structure was not, in fact, built for maximum access. Our structure was primarily built as a way to exclude vast swaths of people. So while we're talking about entrepreneurship, right, one of the things that it's important to remember is that communities such as Tulsa, as Greenwood in Tulsa, existed not just because they accessed tenets of capitalist structures. They also existed because there was a social creation of community that is really important for us to remember. When you can combine the ability to have financial stability and wealth with all of these other tenets of a healthy community, access to health, safety, education, welfare. When I say welfare, I mean general welfare, right? Access to social resources, then you can create communities that work for everyone. So those two things, especially for marginalized groups, really have to go together. They have to work in conjunction with one another. Okay, so that's my 15 minutes. So I'm going to stop talking. And if anybody has any questions later, we can talk about it on the other end. All right, thank you. And sorry for the technical difficulties.
No worries. Thank you, Dr. Matthews. I think it's a great segue to Angelica, who is
I can't hear you.
Can everybody else
I
hear
can't
me?
hear you, Dr. Dixon. Is it just me?
It's just you. I don't know if Chris is still on.
It
Hopefully.
might just be me. Go ahead.
Angelica, I think it's a great, thank you, Chris. I think it's a great segue to Angelica, who is the co-founder of Erie's Black Wall Street, also an alum of Edinburgh University, graduating from Edinburgh, but also just talking about maybe what were some of the reasons or the things that led you to create the Erie Black Wall Street, and then also what supported you in developing your own business, you're co-owner of Journey to Life.
Yes. Well, thank you, number one, for having me on this panel discussion. I keep getting hit with reminders like, oh, you're an adult, you're doing well in life. Like, so I appreciate you having me on. I would say for Erie's Black Wall Street, I think the thing that really stuck out to me, there was a point during COVID where we had Black Tuesday. And so it was a blackout day and you were supposed to shop Black all day, right? Everything you're supposed to buy from people of color. And I was like, I'm gonna try this. And I had just watched the Netflix documentary with Killer Mike where he had tried it in Atlanta and he wound up sleeping on a bench, basically homeless because he couldn't find resources from Black owned businesses. So I tried it and it lasted about 30 seconds. I think I found the Sunoco, Manus Sunoco gas station to get my gas, but then there was groceries, food. I couldn't find anything else Black owned. And at the time, Kyra, myself, and Devana, we had a friend group. So we'd get together on the weekends and just talk about being millennials in Erie. I told them like where my barriers were coming up at. And they're like, well, there is like kind of a directory. And at the time, Miss Cynthia Muhammad had the Erie Yellow Pages, I believe it was. And we were like, well, we need something digital because millennials, we need something to scroll, we need something to click on. So we created a Facebook page. Kyra really spearheaded creating the Facebook page for Black and Brown people to join, share whether it was their business or just events that were happening. And it grew pretty quickly. Like I think we got like 1,000 followers within like a month or two. And Kyra came to us and she's like, okay, we have all these people literally following us. Well, how are we going to lead, right? Like, what are we going to do to share different and innovative information? And we sat and she was like, I think we have to make this a nonprofit, guys. Like, if we want to lead, we're going to have the resources to do it. So I remember being like, all right, that's going to be a lot of work, but you're right. We do need to do it. So she got the paperwork together. I remember we were at a pop-up shop for Black owned businesses, which She Vintage, and Kyra comes in with the paperwork. She's like, I got it, guys. Let's go. Let's sign this. So we reviewed it. We signed all the papers, and that was in 2020. And from that point, we had to figure out what we were going to do now with this organization. And Dr. Matthews always gives us credit for being co-founders, but in the words of Hamilton, she was in the room when it happened. Like Dr. Matthews organized us. She stood in the front of the room. I remember the whiteboard being in the Edinburgh classroom. We all sweating in the classroom. It's hot. And we are writing out this plan of what we envision this to look like. So we started with the home buyers program. For myself, ownership is important for Black and Brown people, simply because if we take it back 100 years or so, land ownership, that's what allowed you to vote, right? Other than the racial and gender aspects of it. But Black people owning things, right? Not only did it give you something to take care of, but it gives you some stake in your community. If I own this house, I want my lawn to look a certain way. I'm going to look out for my neighbors rather than I'm renting and maybe I'm moving every couple months so I don't have a stake in the space that I'm in. So with the homeowners, we said, what were the barriers to homeownership for Black and Brown people? I would like a small caveat of that is I think that's where I personally landed, because when my wife ran for city council in 2018-19, which also was still our team, Dr. Matthews, Kyra, we still all kind of got together for that. I was doing research about Erie, and one of the like scary statistics was less than 1% of Black people owned homes in Erie at the time. 1%, right? So 99% are renting their house. So I was like, we kind of got to tackle this. So we addressed the barriers, and we were able to find experts and give 4 different free classes. We wanted to make it accessible, so we made it online. There were no fees. All you had to do was sign up and show up. At the end of those classes, which included budgeting, credit, we had a realtor come on, talk about the process of buying a home. But if you attended all 4 of those free classes, then you were given the opportunity to be entered into the raffle to receive a down payment towards your first home. Because education and that lump sum of money was a huge barrier for Black and Brown people. After the first one, we were like, okay, this went pretty good. And then I'm not quite sure what happened, but it just exploded at one point. We were hearing our own names in spaces we were not aware that we were in. And we moved forward from that as far as really trying to collectively understand how we can make Erie better as an entity with what we had created. And I would say the biggest push for us was the response of the community. The community really being like, oh, snap, y'all trying to do, okay, we got you. We're going to support you. We are going to show up for you. We're going to share your stuff on Facebook. And it really showed me a different side of Erie, because when I got here as a Black woman, I was not hearing that there was collectiveness here. I was not hearing that. And then we saw it. And it wasn't something we created. It was something that we sat down and people responded to. So it was already here. So from there, I mean, we're here now. And I think our next big thing is the gala on Saturday. Like, I literally just got a text message, oh, are there any more tickets? And so I think for me, in my head, the goal was always, in thinking of Tulsa, yes, there's that business component, but when I think of Tulsa, I genuinely think of community. It wasn't just the businesses. It was the fact that if you went to school, your teacher was a person of color that you could relate to, your doctor, the lawyers, wherever you went, you were not a fly in a cup of milk, for lack of better words. You were surrounded by other individuals that could show you and lead by example. So that was my goal. And I know as far as our organization in general, our goal is to always kind of be connected to the community and understand what the community needs at that time. Not to repeat the same thing over and over again, but give the information so we can progress, and so we can get to those next steps and build whole entire communities. That was a lot.
Oh, thank you so much. Powerful, very, very powerful, and understanding of the transition. I think it's a great segue to Ms. Morris to talk a little bit about how she took this energy company, this drink, and put it on the shelves of Walmart, ShopRite, and Amazon to encourage those emerging entrepreneurs about the power of Black business.
Well, thank you, Dr. Dixon. I've enjoyed both Dr. Rhonda and Angelica's comments, and I took a lot of notes. And I think everything that they've said so far has been right on point, especially in terms of looking at how you began entrepreneurship. When I first moved back to the Erie community, I was recently separated. I had 4 children. And as a single mom, after living in the New York metro area, I could not do Erie the way Erie was at that time. Not working in the regular 9-to-5 space, I felt that I needed more. And I wanted to, I came to a point where I said, I'm going to declare excellence. I remember the day I was sitting in my little office and I said, I'm going to declare excellence for my family and for myself. And at that time, as soon as I came home, 6 months later, I bought a home, I bought a house, okay? And I have to tell you, I refinanced that house 3 times to continue to finance my business growth. Because at the time, there really wasn't much opportunity for African Americans with the banks. We could perhaps get some money for our personal selves, but it was very, very difficult to get bank lending at that time. I did receive some bank financing, and I'm talking about the late 90s, okay? Because I'm a little older than some of you all here, but I stuck with it, and all I can say is that, you know, the most important thing I think I could leave with any entrepreneur here today is don't quit. Because it took me a long time to do everything that I needed to do. I needed to, first of all, get my 4 children into college and out of college and into their career paths, and they've all done extremely well. You know many of my children. I'm not going to sit here and name names, but you know, I've done a good job as a mom, but not just as a mother. I felt that it was important for me to build a very good, strong base, a social base for my kids. So I put them in church. They were active in sports. They were doing a lot of things in the community. And I think that when we as African Americans are starting businesses, we can't just think about ourselves and the business. We have to think about what we are leaving behind. What are we doing in terms of training? So a lot of the stuff that I did, I had my kids coming to work and working in the office. You all know Catherine, my daughter, Catherine. All of my children got early experience working in the business. They started working with me right when I started initially in my home office, and then I had other offices. I had a facility in Detroit, Michigan. I, have been a serial entrepreneur working on a lot of different projects, but my dream was to acquire an energy drink company. So around 2009, I met an investor. His name was Tim McQuaid. He passed away from COVID a few years ago. And Tim and I actually acquired ZenEdge, so it was an acquisition. We purchased this company as minority shareholders, and at the time I was only a 20% owner of the business. We, not knowing anything from my standpoint about the beverage business, I knew a lot about packaging, but I had no background in marketing. Tim had a lot of experience in working in logistics. So I struggled for almost 5 years because I didn't have resources locally to go to in terms of African Americans that I could tap into. And a lot of the opportunities that would have been available to me, from the white community were too expensive. So I kind of had to learn through the school of hard knocks. And now I have been able to grow the brand, but most people aren't willing to do what I did. I was willing to put my house up. I was willing to make the sacrifice year after year after year after year and not get the notoriety of my brand until I was able to get the brand to where it is now. And I think part of that comes from our community. I was very rooted in the church, but also in terms of being able to just have a belief in yourself. We have to believe in ourselves. My mom used to say that if you don't think you can do anything, nobody else will either. So I just had a strong belief system in myself. I worked hard. I gave it my all. I declared excellence. And the name of this panel is Black Excellence. And from the eyes of me today and comparing what we are learning today in terms of what happened on Black Wall Street and Greenwood. I feel that one thing that I think we can do is we can train the next generation, okay? We can always keep enough capital ready to rebuild. We can remember that history repeats itself. So from the standpoint of what Dr. Rhonda was saying about our country being based on a lot of racial, institutional racism, we realize that we are working in that type of an environment. And when we look at what was going on back then, it was overt. Now it's covert, it's hidden, But I think Black Wall Street, the organization that you all have started, has given even myself, an older, mature businesswoman, a belief that we can do it, we can work together, we can help each other if we just continue to try to help each other and circulate that dollar. Like I can't remember who was saying it about, she was looking, I think it was Angelica, she was talking about looking to spend money in the Black community. We can do that. And I'm so happy to be a part of Black Wall Street in terms of what you all are trying to develop today. I mean, there's been so much in our community of not supporting each other, not believing in each other, but I believe we are in a new day now, a new era, and I'm so grateful to be a part of the Black Wall Street today.
Thank you so much. I'm going to shift to Tiffany, and then we also want to be mindful of time because I want to leave some for our emerging and current student entrepreneurs. But something you all mentioned was, generational wealth, being positioned to help others and to rebuild. And Tiffany actually has an event coming up where I forgot to mention, she's the co-founder of Her Power Incorporated. And one of the awards you all give out is generational wealth. So Tiffany, I'd like you just to talk a little bit and maybe speak to our current students about, what would you say in terms of them being positioned to be successful in their businesses?
Thank you, Dr. Dixon, for having me. Can you hear me clearly? Okay, perfect. Erie's Black Wall Street, Dr. Matthews and Miss Marva, you all were phenomenal. Like I could just listen to you all day. Erie's Black Wall Street, we really appreciate what you've done for the Erie community. You actually were, Erie's Black Wall Street was one of our honorees last year. To the students listening. So in the space of Her Power, we created it because we needed to, I was asking myself some questions, trying to figure out that gap between the woman who was like me, who was primarily from the inner city, and the woman who was not from the inner city. How can I bridge the gap, and what questions did I have? And so I asked those questions to my mentor. And so one thing that I would recommend for students looking at that business space is to ask yourself some questions and look at what that thorn is in your side. Your thorn is that thing that you are concerned about. When you say somebody needs to do this, well, that somebody should be you. And in that process, be resilient. I remember being at Edinboro in graduate school and receiving that phone call that my father had collapsed. And little did I know, like I would be able to spend one more hour with him at the hospital in Philadelphia downtown before he passed away. And at that moment, I had to make a decision whether to complete my master's degree at Edinboro or not. And so I decided to do what my father would want me to do, and I continued the process. And that was a part of being resilient. So while you're in school, you may face some challenges and difficulties, but I'm telling you, if you have that thought, that idea, that business idea on what you want to do, literally put it on paper. So what I did during that time, I had blank paper that looked like this, right? It was blank. I had a huge blank art book. And I would just write thoughts and write ideas. And I was trying to figure out what power meant. So answer those questions that you might have while you're in school now. Write down what your business plan might look like. Be resilient and get through and push through some of those barriers and challenges that you hear being discussed now. like systematic racism, the social injustices that we experience now. So I just would like to encourage you to be resilient, write down your thoughts and ideas. If you're one of those people that you wake up at 2, 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the morning and you have a thought on something amazing you should do, I'm telling you, keep your phone next to you, click on your notes and write your stuff in your notes section. I have probably about 1,000 notes in my iPhone because I'm one of those people, when you're an entrepreneur and you have that mindset, your mind literally always goes, and you have to put forth extra effort to slow yourself down at times. So be resilient, write down your thoughts, create your plan. Her Power, we do have our 9th conference coming up this March, actually the 24th and 25th, where we're honoring some amazing women in the community. And Dr. Dixon mentioned about the generational wealth. We have in our community some amazing business owners, and I didn't feel that I was seeing women that looked like me enough when they were being honored by women were being honored by other organizations. I felt that we needed to create that space. So that's what we did in Her Power. So we have a Generational Wealth Award that is going to a grandmother who started a childcare business, and she helped her daughter to start her childcare business, and now her granddaughter. So 3 generations of businesses being passed on, which is something we don't typically see in the Black community as often as others. So Her Power, we have the awards gala on Friday, and Saturday we have classes. So if any of you have interest in learning more about the political process of taking public offices or sitting on boards, authorities, or commissions, or looking to find ways to increase your streams of income, or if you want to know about etiquette, because we have an etiquette course as well, I encourage you all to come to Her Power Friday and Saturday, or even just Saturday, because the workshop is where the really important piece comes. So if you guys have any questions, I'll definitely put my email in the chat. Feel free to reach out anytime. I love Edinboro. I'm an alum. It was the best experience for me as a graduate student there. I said I should have went there for undergrad, but that's another story. But I just want you all to be encouraged and feel that you have a connection to Erie, because it's a saying, once you drink the water in Erie, you are stuck. So I'm telling you, if you have questions, reach out. I'll be more than happy to assist in any way that I can. Thank you, Dr. Dixon.
Thank you, Ms. Levesque. If you could also put your event in the chat. And I do want to, before Savannah takes it over, just to remind folks, our students are across the Penn U campus. So some of them are in the Philly area, some may be at Cal, some may be at Clarion. So we have a rich geographical representation here today. Savannah, it's in your hands now.
I just want to thank every one of you for speaking and on behalf of your businesses. I know as a student here, especially on a PWI, on a small campus, we have to create that sense of community because of the lack of resources. So going into my first question, for whether Thiago you would like to answer, or Bree, was there something about about the educational setting that inspired you to start your business, whether lack of resources, anything along those lines?
I'd say for myself personally, I feel like there was like a lack of presence. And because there was a lack of resources, that just kind of like inspired me to start my business and get my business going. I had seen like a lot of other small businesses on campus, and I asked around and asked them like what did it take to get to where you are now, and asked them for advice. And they, I was blessed to have the help of like other businesses like No Deviation Studios, Voyage, Uncommon Clothing. All 3 of those guys, they really helped me get my brand to where it is now, as I'm still like in the stepping stones of my brand. But just a lack of I guess you could say like resources to those small businesses on campus is what really inspired me to start where I am now.
Thank you. Bria, would you like to add?
I think on campus, well, I really got started with my business as I was here at school, and like he said, like the support that I have from the different brands on campus, including the clothing brands who asked me to take pictures, or just the support of the students is really what drove me to make my business what it is. Because it started off as a hobby. I was like, oh, I don't care for it too much. But then everybody was like, no, like you need to think about this and you should really like do something with this. And then that's when I started making my logos, started coming up with packages for like photo shoots and everything. So yeah, students played a big part.
Thank you. Also, I know as students and holding multiple spaces, and that means I know Thiago, you're a student athlete, you're on executive boards. Bria, you're on executive boards as well, part of the honors program. How do you keep the motivation to continue your business amidst the schoolwork and everything else that you do here on campus?
Personally, for me, it's kind of hard. Like a lot of times I get into like a really, really dark place where I no longer want to continue with it. But I just think back to myself, like I'm 10 times farther than where I started. You know what I mean? Like a lot of times we lose that motivation and we lose that sense of urge, but you just gotta like, when you got a strong why and a strong reason why you do it, and you think about like the people you've impacted along the way, you just go back to that place of like when you first started and that motivation where you first got, you know what I mean, that eagerness that you had, that hunger that you had, you know what I mean? A lot of times I heard a quote where it was like, hungry lions don't get fed, the ones who starving do. So I just gotta go back to that mentality where I'm starving to be successful. So I think that's where I find that motivation to keep going where I'm at.
For me, it can get kind of, tough being on an executive board and part of the honors program and everything, but I always knew that I wanted to be an entrepreneur and I knew this is what I want for myself. So just looking at my future and where I see myself over the years, then that's what motivates me to do what I'm doing now.
Thank you again. So also another question of mine, how do you guys tend to keep up with, let's say, the latest trends or producing something new? I know we are on a small campus at Cal, both of you, and there's lack of resources present to whether it's film or there's shirts or anything like that. How do you try to stay relevant today?
I think to stay relevant, I try to pick a lane for what I'm doing with my photography and seeing what everybody else does, trying to make myself different. One thing I know is a lot of pictures that I see and a lot of photographers that I see now, they're like heavily editing their pictures or they have a certain style that they do. With mine, I like to keep mine very natural because I see the beauty in what I take the picture of. So I don't want to edit it and make it something that it's not. So I try to stick to that. And my brother, who's also a photographer, videographer, he impacts me a lot he'll teach me like, he's been in this business for a while, so he knows what has been trending, what has not been trending, what cameras does what. So learning that right now and picking out my own style of what I'm doing is how I do that.
I say for me personally, social media has to do a big part of it. I try not to fall too deep in comparison with other brands because my message and their message aren't the same. But with that being said, though, I do take, I dabble within a few brands, see what luxury brands are, coming out with, like what's in like Louis Vuitton spring collection or Fear of God essentials collection and things of that nature, just to, see what I can mimic and also put my own touch onto. And, I work very heavily with my designers and my manufacturers and trying to let them know, like, this is how I'd like it. But I just try to basically just, if it's not something I would wear, I'm not going to produce it. You know what I mean? And just me being in the fashion industry is so hard because like so many things get oversaturated so quickly with social media and TikTok and you know what I mean? Like, so I just try to basically just try to put my own spin on some things and, you know, obviously take what is popular right now, but just make it my own and something that I want people to be like, hey, like, where'd you get that from? You know what I mean? Like, I don't want people to just categorize me with everybody else.
So to end with my final question, so we could have space for questions. I'm really big on manifesting, and I know it has become pretty popular and outward. So manifesting the future, each of you, how far do you want your business to go? Where do you see yourself, and what are your hopes for the near future?
I see myself traveling the world. But I see myself going very far, just being in like unexpected places. Like I could be a photographer at the Grammys or something take it far and also expand more into videography as well. I'm in photography right now, but I hope to one day get into more videos, see where that takes me. But yeah, bigger and better things.
And you're gonna get there, Bria. But for me personally, you know, just balancing. Obviously, I'd like to make it to the NFL one day and pursue that career there. But truthfully, I look up to Virgil a lot. May he rest in peace. But you know, I'd really like to just leave an impact some way, somehow, whether it's in the fashion industry or whether that's just like through what I do as a person. I'd like to see myself eventually, you know, having my own brand become like something like Supreme or even better than that. But yeah, just honestly, just making a difference and just being an inspiration to the young kids who were just like me that didn't know anything about starting a clothing brand or balancing their life while being an entrepreneur. You know what I mean? Because I'm a first generation college student and my mom's an immigrant from Dominican Republic. So when I told my mom like, yo, my mom started a clothing brand, she just said like, what? You don't do that. That's not what you're supposed to do. You just go to school. So I just really want to pave the way. That's it. That's all I really want. I just want to be an inspiration. So
I just want to say thank you to each of you. I know I don't have a business personally, but I know as a student here, witnessing a lot of people start their businesses and continue on has definitely made my experience here at California, Cal U's campus, way better, even from making those relationships, networking, and building upon that, and just seeing other students, young minority Black students, be something great, especially in a space where it doesn't seem like there's room or the opportunity and lack of thereof. Dr. Dixon, would you like to end with anything before
Absolutely. I want to, first of all, thank everyone. And I'm so encouraged, especially to our current students. I'm just thinking like, wow, you're going to school, you've started a business, you're filling in the gap, you're already filling in that space where, particularly as people of color, that need in a community. So you're already walking in those pieces. To our alumni and community business owners who came on, thank you so much for sharing with us today. Thank you, Dr. Rhonda Matthews, for always answering your phone when I call you. I appreciate you. It is such a powerful message. And, you know, I guess one of the things before we end, I would just ask our alumni for last words, golden nuggets. And then obviously we want a little bit of space if there's someone that has a question for any of the panelists. We want to offer that opportunity before we jump off today. But I'm going to lead with our panelists to offer last words of wisdom or nuggets, golden nuggets, not just to students, but to all of us. I might have a dream that I want to pursue. So inspire us, just give us some nuggets to end with. And then if there are questions, please put them in the chat that we can ask those questions for you.
I put my comment in the chat, but there is room at the table. You all definitely inspired me with this from the beginning to the end. Students, I am like really proud of you. I always say, I wish I was 21 when I started this, but you are right on target with your thoughts, with your perseverance, with pushing through. Her power, there's room for you. I don't know if any of you are in the Erie area, but we have, the vending space is sold out, but I'll be willing to make room if any one of you wanted to bring your products there. Please email me, contact me as soon as possible. Also, we have photographers, videographers that we use every year. I'd be more than willing to allow you to come in and work with them because our stuff, like they produce some really nice work for us. So I'd love to include you guys in that.
And if there's a student on who is in this area or would be willing to travel, if you want to come, I'm happy to support and sponsor a ticket. So please reach out to us, let us know. Angelica.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing I would say is don't do it by yourself. Like, it's okay to be that individual entrepreneur, but when I found my tribe, when I found that supportive group of people, and I could share my ideas and share where I wanted to progress to, it just takes some weight off. And specifically to the students, y'all working hard, take care of yourself, take care of your body and your brain, because you will excel if you are in a healthy place to do so. That was the clinician in me just needing to tell y'all young people, take care of yourself.
Ms. Morris.
I would just say, continue to be purposeful. You guys are doing an awesome job. And, you know, going to school is hard enough, but also having your dream, building your dream at the same time is just wonderful. And continue to be excellent. You know, I said that earlier, this discussion was about Black excellence. And you guys have already taken the first step of excellence by being enrolled in a institution of higher education. And on top of that, now you're going after your dream. And the thing about following your dream is it might get hard. The road's going to get hard sometime. You're going to want to give up. But as I said earlier, don't quit. And eventually you'll get what you're going after. So just keep believing in yourself, keep having excellence in everything you do, and be purposeful.
Awesome. Dr. Matthews, anything you want to say?
Just I want to piggyback on what everybody else has said, but I want to specifically hone in on what Angelica is saying. That Black excellence does not come in individuals, it comes in community. Everybody that you can point to as an example of Black excellence has a group of people that have supported them, that have provided them ideas and support and, you know, sometimes money, sometimes a couch to sleep on, encouragement, right? Community and success are not individual. Contrary to what people will tell you in this society, all this individualism, rah-rah stuff, I don't know one person, and neither do you, who has ever gotten success just on their own merit. That's not how people operate. We don't. We all have people who surround us. We all have structures who surround us, that surround us. Those are the things upon which we need to lean in order to continue to create Black excellence. The last thing that I will say is this, and I didn't originate this quote. I cannot remember who said it, but I know this, that the key to freedom for Black people is imagination, the ability to imagine us being free, being somewhere other, somewhere better than where we are now. And so, you know, if you have the imagination, you know, you're halfway there. And so the creation of these communities, I think, is important for us to keep having conversations about Black excellence, because community, good community, is what breeds Black excellence. So I hope you all will continue to be connected with one another and to connect with other people who are there to support you and do what Angelica said, which is to connect, to not do it in isolation, to do what Ms. Morris and with what Ms. Levette said, which is to teach your children and your nieces and nephews about this, so that this information is not some far off distant piece of something that they can't get to, so that it's right there in their spaces every single day. And they know that they can do it. So I want to congratulate y'all for stepping out into this world of entrepreneurship at a much younger age than most people do. I think it's fantastic.
Awesome. Mr. Alvarez, Ms. Allen, anything else you want to say to the group?
I just want to say thank you for having me, and thank you for all of your advice and tips that we've learned from you guys. So, yep, thank you.
I'd just like to say thank you for the opportunity. Not a lot of times we get an opportunity like this, to speak amongst people who are like us. So, I just really just grateful, and I just hope that you guys continue to keep doing what you're doing for the community. It means a lot to us. So yeah, just grateful. That's all.
Thank you so much. And please don't forget to put in the chat your email or links to your information. We did say that we would support your businesses by offering folks who participated the opportunity for we would fund like a gift certificate to support you all. So please put your information in the chat so that people have it, but we have it through Savannah, so we can certainly circle back to you. We want to support and encourage you. Before we wrap up, I just want to give anyone who's on the call an opportunity to ask a question for any of the panelists if you would like to. All right, I'm not seeing anything in the chat. So I will say this in the words of my spiritual father. He would say, it's a poor frog that will not praise his own. And it's so true. What that means is we have to support one another. We are a community. We're in this together. You're not in it alone. No matter how young or how old you are, we can accomplish our dreams, and we can do it together. Thank you all so much for representing Black excellence and the brilliance of who we are as a community. I want to encourage you all as we continue the Black History Month program this in the month of February, that on next Tuesday, our student leaders, Ms. Savannah Dorsey, Jada Smith, and
Nia Latham.
thank you. Nia will be presenting, and they will be talking about their experience as students, particularly in a predominantly white institution. You do not want to miss it. We encourage you all to show up on next Tuesday at 6 p.m. We'll send out links and reminders. I know we've hit our social media platforms to also remind people about it, but we encourage you to participate in that. Again, thank you to all of our panelists. Thank all of you who came on and supported this presentation. We again appreciate